Jeffrey McConney, a senior vice president with the Trump Organization, also serving as a controller for the Trump Organization, last week, as you may recall, threw Donald Trump under the bus during the tax fraud trial that is going on in Manhattan. Well, this week he's singing a different tune. After last week saying that Donald Trump knew about all of the fraud taking place at the company, McConney, just several days later now, tells us that Trump didn't know a thing about any of this. What are you people talking about? Which, of course, pissed off the judge, it pissed off the federal prosecutors, and it may cost him his immunity deal. The judge on Monday said this. This is Judge Juan Manuel Merchan, who said, he has a hard time, frankly, giving very credible answers after granting prosecutors the ability to treat the witness as hostile. And they're now allowed to ask him leading questions. The judge had initially refused that, but once McConney continued to pretend like he didn't know what was happening, the judge gave in and said, screw it, basically. You're being intentionally obtuse, and now you're contradicting your statement from just a few days ago, so I'm going to let the prosecution kind of do whatever the hell they want to do, because that's what you deserve. Now, here's a fun part. Mr. McConney, as I said, senior vice president of the Trump Organization, is still apparently being paid. So I imagine his testimony last week where he said that Donald Trump was well aware of all of the fraud didn't sit well with the company that he still works for and is paying him $450,000. They're also, by the way, paying his legal fees. So I have to imagine, again, can't say for certain, but the way I think this may have played itself out is that McConney goes back to work after testifying and, the organization is like, dude, what the hell? We're paying you. We're paying for your lawyers. Maybe you ought not throw us under the bus because, this week his testimony was totally different. And what's funny about it is that he is now saying exactly what I said last week he would have to imply in order for Trump to not have known what was going on. Now think back to that video for a minute. Again, really just a couple days ago. I talked about the fact that either, McConney would have had to throw Donald Trump under the bus and say, yes, he knew this, or he'd basically have to admit that Donald Trump was a horrible CEO that had no idea what was happening in his own company. And wouldn't you know it, it's exactly what McConney told the court this week before, of course, pissing off the judge and the prosecutors. Here's what he said. Well, before I even get to that, let me give you a little bit of backstory. McConney, again, last week, said that Weisselberg told him specifically Donald Trump's in on the fraud, he's cool with it, he had to sign the papers. So the prosecutors asked him, okay, well, you said Trump signed the papers. And then they said this. Well, this is what McConney said. That doesn't mean he doesn't have a stack and just signs them. If he had a stack on his desk, I don't know if he's looking at invoices or just approving them. So the prosecutor then asked, are you suggesting that Donald Trump was unaware that some of these items were being backed out of the compensation? Yes, McConney replied. By saying yes, which again 100% contradicts his testimony from last week, he is telling us that Donald Trump was such a bad executive that he didn't bother to read things coming across his desk, like papers that basically say, hey, we're reducing Weisselberg's compensation on paper to give him these other things instead. And Trump just said, sign. Yay, I sign lots of papers. That's definitely negligence. I mean, I'm going to give you that much. That is negligence. It also doesn't help your case at all because it paints the picture of Donald Trump being an incompetent moron, which of course could lead prosecutors to requesting the corporate death penalty for the Trump Organization because of the gross mismanagement that Mr. McConney is now testifying happened. So either way you slice it, things are bad. And they're probably going to get much worse for McConney. As I mentioned, he does have an immunity deal in exchange for his cooperation because prosecutors told him, we have evidence that you engaged in this fraud as well, but we're not going to prosecute you if you testify truthfully. Well, he ain't testifying truthfully, so I think at this point it's only a matter of time before his immunity deal goes away and he suffers the same fate that Alan Weisselberg will be suffering. Only, of course, if he continues contradicting himself and putting up roadblocks for the prosecution. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel? We also encourage you to like, comment, and share, but again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.